Basically, I gave up my apartment in Santa Monica, which I lived for about 30 years there.
We're not like monsters out here. We're the regular people. Most of us had normal jobs and lives.
A lot of people think that they're free, but they don't take the time out to go there just to see.
More programs to help out disabled homeless people.
Have you ever wondered what's hidden beneath the glow of America's cities? As you look up at the shining skyscrapers and dazzling neon lights, take a step closer. Just a few feet away, thousands are struggling to survive the night in makeshift tents, facing cold, hunger, and fear. This crisis isn't distant. It's happening right next to you, in the very cities you thought you knew. From Skid Row to overcrowded shelters, homelessness is exposing the deep fractures in the society you live in. This film isn't here to blame anyone. It's here to help you see more clearly. Welcome to RoamKind. Let's uncover this truth with open eyes and open hearts. Number 1, New York City, where your dreams shine, but shadows may follow. You arrive in New York City, where skyscrapers touch the sky and ambition feels limitless. But as you marvel at the energy and elegance, you may miss what lies just out of frame. The quiet crisis unfolding on the streets and in shelters. In the 2023 to 2024 school year, more than 146,000 students in New York experienced homelessness. That's 1 in every 8 children, enough to fill Yankee Stadium almost 3 times. And it's not just individuals. Entire families, often with young children like yours or someone you know, are struggling to survive amid soaring rent and shrinking support.
It's a struggle. It's something that you don't expect, but it might pop up on you at any time.
By March of the year 2025, data from the Coalition for the Homeless shows that 70% of people in shelters were part of homeless families, including more than 37,800 children. Now picture trying to pay $3,000 a month in rent on a fixed income of just $1,600 to $2,000. Would you manage? But these numbers don't tell you everything. Picture a retired transit worker who once helped move the city, now sleeping on a bench. A grandmother sharing half a sandwich with her grandson on a subway platform, just steps away from luxury restaurants where executives enjoy meals costing $1,000. Maybe you think the system should help, but for many, it doesn't. Seniors, veterans, people with mental health struggles, they're being left behind in a city filled with digital forms and distant support lines. People like you, or someone you know, disappearing into silence. As one advocate put it, this city caters to the elite while neglecting the people who built it. And maybe you felt that too. This isn't just policy, it's about dignity. Each number is a name, a story, a life. A parent laid off without warning. A child doing homework in the back seat of a car. Maybe it's closer to your reality than you think. And if New York is where wealth and suffering walk the same streets, what happens when a city's vision for progress begins to fray? Number 2, Portland's Lost Garden. You make your way to Portland, Oregon, once celebrated as the City of Roses. But now, you might hear a different name whispered through its sidewalks and overgrown parks, the City of Forgotten Tents. By early 2025, more than 11,000 people, possibly someone like you or someone you've passed on the street, are experiencing homelessness in Multnomah County, home to the city of Portland. And that number keeps rising. These aren't just statistics. They are real, living stories. Stories you can see in every street corner.
I'm homeless. I'm an ex-felon. I done 30 years in the penitentiary.
under every overpass. You might meet someone like Elijah, a former school teacher now living beneath Burnside Bridge, who says, "It didn't happen overnight. One missed paycheck, one rent increase, then the city just disappeared for me." You begin to realize the collapse didn't explode. It eroded quietly. After the pandemic, inflation pushed rents up by over 30%, while city services failed to keep up. Laws once meant to help, like those allowing public camping, unintentionally turned sidewalks into settlements, parks into crowded tent zones. At night, you feel the silence, not peaceful, but hollow. You avoid playgrounds after dark. You hesitate downtown, not out of fear of people, but of being forgotten yourself, in a system that forgets its own. Even city leaders admit the truth. A devastating mix of rising construction costs, underfunded mental health care, and a growing population of veterans and working people who can no longer afford to live in the city they helped build. And what's left? A safety net so thin, you wonder if it can catch anyone at all. One community report showed that emergency shelters in Portland meet only 55% of nightly needs. The gap isn't closing, it's widening. But this isn't just Portland's burden. It's a reflection across the American West. Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles, their sidewalks echo the same unraveling. Still, Portland cuts deeper for you, because this city once stood for creativity, for nature, for care. Now, as you leave Portland behind and head north to Seattle, you see those who once wore military uniforms now waiting in line for soup. And in both cities, hope still flickers in canvas and nylon. But hope cannot live in silence. So ask yourself, do you still see them? Or have you grown used to stepping around their shadows? Number 3. Seattle, Washington. Now you find yourself in Seattle, the birthplace of grunge music, a city wrapped in rain and rhythm. But behind the charm, you start to feel a heavier rhythm, one of rising poverty and deepening homelessness. By the year 2024, more than 14,000 people in Seattle were experiencing homelessness. And as you look around, projections warn this number won't decline anytime soon. Behind each statistic, you sense something more, a fight for survival, for shelter, for dignity. In just the past 5 years, rent has risen by over 40%, while wages and housing support barely budged. You start to wonder, how is anyone supposed to keep up? How do working families, or people already on the edge, survive in a system that keeps pushing them further out of reach? Then comes the reality of applying for help. You might try navigating housing programs, only to hit wall after wall. Complex paperwork, strict ID requirements, and wait lists that stretch into months. And often, the people who need help the most face the steepest climb. You meet someone who's walked that path. A military veteran, sleeping at a public bus stop, tells you, "We're thanked for our service, but left without a safe place to sleep." That hits hard. You pause. What does it mean to be supported if it doesn't include safety, stability, and a place to call home? Seattle is booming with tech growth. You see it in every sleek office tower. But on the sidewalks, thousands still live without shelter. And you ask yourself, is this the result of broken policies, a lack of funding, or is it about how society sees the unhoused? So now, it's your turn to reflect. What would you change first? Is it affordable housing, a stronger safety net, or do you believe it starts with bolder local leadership? As Seattle's gray skies fade in your rearview mirror, your journey heads south, toward Phoenix, Arizona, where relentless heat only deepens America's homelessness crisis. If you believe everyone deserves a safe place to sleep, drop a comment. Housing is a human right. Your voice matters. Let's keep the conversation alive. Number 4. Phoenix, Arizona, where the sun burns harder than hope. Phoenix is often called the Valley of the Sun, but if you have ever walked its blistering streets without a place to call home, you know that sunlight can feel more like a threat than a blessing, a battle you face each day just to survive. Back in January 2024, more than 9,435 people were living without shelter across Phoenix. By early 2025, that number has risen past 9,800. And if you are part of this growing population, you have likely felt how rising rent outpaces wages, while affordable housing remains a distant promise. You might have watched the city grow, towers rising, cranes painting the skyline, and still found yourself with fewer places to turn. After the pandemic, many emergency shelters closed their doors. Maybe you are like Maria, a mother who once held a steady job but now sleeps in a car with her son. Maybe your story sounds eerily similar. I used to work full-time, she said. Now my car is the only roof I have, and it weighs on me more than ever. Then there's the heat. In Phoenix, summer doesn't just exhaust you, it endangers you. You know what it's like when the temperature soars past 115 degrees Fahrenheit, and all you have is shade that vanishes too soon. In the year 2024 alone, 645 lives were lost to heat-related causes, many of them unsheltered neighbors, just like you. Cooling centers are scarce, and if you don't have gas or a bus pass, survival becomes a daily question. High taxes don't seem to help you when public services shrink and housing becomes unreachable. Property values go up, but somehow your footing keeps slipping. It's not just unfair, it feels like society is asking you to disappear. As Phoenix faces this slow-burning emergency, you are not alone. Cities like Austin are following closely behind, where the cost of growth is measured in human lives. And so we ask, in a land filled with abundance, why has shelter become a privilege, not a right, for people like you? Number 5. Austin, Texas, where music echoes over empty streets. You may know Austin as the beating heart of live music and a cradle of creative sparks. But if you walk just a little further past the neon lights, you'll hear a different rhythm, the silence of lost dreams, tucked beneath overpasses and in makeshift tented corners. As of January in the year 2025, more than 3,238 people, perhaps someone you once greeted at a coffee shop or someone who fixed your internet, are now without a home in Austin and across Travis County. That reflects a 36% increase compared to just 2 years ago. Between the years 2010 and 2020, rental prices in Austin increased by nearly 93%, while wages struggled to keep pace. You might ask yourself, how can a booming city fail the very people who built it? The answer may lie in what locals now call the tent and eviction loop. You find a place to sleep, the city removes it, and you're left to begin again, from scratch, again and again. I used to fix your internet. Now I can't even afford a motel room, says Carlos, a former field technician who now sleeps beneath Interstate 35. And perhaps with just a little misfortune, his story could have been yours. Behind the polished windows of downtown loft apartments and boutique brunch cafes, the sidewalks have become shelter. Growth, so often celebrated, casts shadows as tall as the towers themselves. Some city officials blame zoning regulations. Others point to a severe lack of funding for mental health services and addiction treatment. But when you listen to people like Amanda, a local resident who volunteers at a church shelter, you may begin to feel a different urgency. How many more camps must be cleared before we start building homes instead of fences? Dr. Linda Teague, a housing policy researcher at the University of Texas in Austin, states it plainly. Without real coordination, from City Hall to Capitol Hill, you're not solving the crisis. You're just moving it from one block to another. So when you think of Austin today, don't just picture music festivals or tech startups. Think of the quiet crisis playing in the background. Because if a city loses its soul, who's next? Number 6. Las Vegas, Nevada, the city of lights and shadows. When people think of Las Vegas, they picture dazzling lights, luxury hotels, and non-stop entertainment. But beyond the neon signs, a darker reality exists, a deepening poverty and homelessness crisis that hides beneath the city's glamorous surface. Did you know? According to the 2024 point-in-time count, Clark County, which includes Las Vegas, reported 7,906 individuals experiencing homelessness. That's a 20% increase compared to the previous year. Even more alarming, it's estimated that around 1,300 people are living in underground flood channels to escape the scorching desert heat. Why is this happening in a city filled with hospitality and tourism jobs? Although there are many jobs available, most positions offer low and unstable wages, while the cost of living, especially rent, continues to rise. Since 2020, rent prices in Las Vegas have increased by nearly 36%, making it difficult for many residents to afford housing. And here's the danger. These storm drains, where many seek refuge, can quickly become life-threatening during sudden flash floods. How can a city known for wealth and entertainment become so perilous for its most vulnerable residents? Many individuals who once worked in bright and busy casinos now live in the shadows, struggling with physical and mental health challenges, and often forgotten by the society they once supported. From the hidden tunnels of Las Vegas, our journey continues north to Denver, where harsh winters challenge the endurance of those without shelter. What can we do as a society to bridge the gap between prosperity and poverty? Las Vegas has jobs, lights, and luxury, but also thousands sleeping underground. Just type, "No one should live in a tunnel," if you agree, or share your thoughts with us below. Number 7. Denver, Colorado. The cold reality behind the Rockies. When you think of Denver, the image that may come to mind is a city cradled by the towering Rocky Mountains, a place full of promise and natural grandeur. But what you don't always see is the growing humanitarian crisis unfolding in its shadows. As of the year 2025, more than 6,500 people in Denver are living without a home, a 12% increase from just 1 year earlier, according to Denverite. You might wonder how a city this prosperous reached such a breaking point. In the past 5 years, housing prices have soared by more than 50%.
Paper stands. Yeah, it was terrible. And I'm sleeping right over here on the bricks.
While wages have barely moved. If you've ever struggled to make ends meet, you know how quickly rent can outpace your income. Now imagine facing all of that, but in the depths of a Denver winter, where temperatures regularly fall below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. If you were out there with no shelter, no heating, no options, how would you survive the night? One social worker recounted finding a mother curled up in her car with two small children, using her coat as their only blanket. That could be someone you know. It could be you, in a different life, or just one paycheck away. And yet, instead of support, some families face local ordinances that prohibit overnight stays in vehicles, stripping away even the bare minimum of shelter. Add to that the weight of high taxes, unaffordable housing, and severe winter weather. And you're looking at a perfect storm against those simply trying to survive. You might never look at Denver the same way again. But this journey isn't over. As you turn your eyes east, prepare to walk the streets of Philadelphia, where the promise of brotherly love is being tested by a homelessness crisis of its own. Number 8. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where history meets a crisis. You've walked through streets where American independence was born, and now you witness a different kind of struggle. In Philadelphia, a city that once stood as a symbol of resilience, a quiet emergency is unfolding right before your eyes. 2024, more than 5,200 people in this city were living without a home, a 10% increase from just the year before, according to Axios. Even more alarming, nearly 1,000 people were sleeping without any shelter, as unsheltered homelessness rose by 38% year over year, based on data from Project Home. But these aren't just numbers. They are lives you pass by on Kensington Avenue, where the tents stretch beyond what anyone should ever have to endure. Philadelphia was once a powerhouse of American industry, but today, the jobs have vanished. Housing costs have soared, and the systems built to help, they're buckling under pressure. What remains is a wave of public health and economic hardship that's left deep, visible, and invisible scars across this historic city. In Kensington, you can feel it. Hardship carved into every corner. It's not just about substances, says Marcus, a former construction worker now forced to sleep on concrete. It's about being forgotten. And you begin to wonder, how did we get here? Experts urge caution before casting blame. Homelessness isn't just a personal tragedy, explains Dr. Alicia Green from the Urban Institute. It's a sign that the systems meant to protect people are no longer working. Local nonprofits, like Broad Street Ministry, are doing their best, offering food and medical support. But even they are overwhelmed. And as the winter winds grow colder, you ask, in a city built on freedom and promise, how many more people must disappear before we choose to truly see them? From the fractured streets of Philadelphia, your journey now leads to Chicago, where harsher winds and a deepening housing crisis await. Number 9. Chicago, frozen dreams and the struggle to survive. Step into Chicago in the heart of winter, and the city's iconic skyline and famous deep dish pizza quickly fade into the background. What grabs your attention instead is a harsh reality. Chicago is in the grip of a deepening poverty and homelessness crisis. By early 2024, the number of people without shelter had surged to over 18,800, tripling in just 1 year. It makes you stop and ask, how did things spiral so quickly? A staggering 73% of these individuals are newly arrived asylum seekers, many coming from the southern border. And perhaps what hits hardest, nearly 1 in every 3 of them are children under the age of 18. Could you picture a child walking icy streets alone, with nowhere to go? Chicago winters are unforgiving. Temperatures can drop below negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about negative 29 degrees Celsius. While the city has around 300 warming centers, only 2 remained open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week during the coldest nights. That winter, at least 9 people died of hypothermia, simply because they had no safe place to sleep. But this isn't just about shelter. It's about survival, about whether you can make it through another night. The shortage of affordable housing, combined with overstretched public services, leaves many with no options. As one elderly man put it, "I used to walk to work. Now I walk just to stay alive." So if you lived here, if this were your city, what would you demand first? Immigration logistics or protection for the most vulnerable? Where does dignity begin? As you leave behind the frozen sidewalks of Chicago, you head west to Los Angeles, the city of stars, but also the epicenter of America's most visible homelessness emergency. Number 10. Los Angeles, California. You've heard of Los Angeles, the city of stars, of dreams, of cinematic splendor. But step past the glittering billboards and red carpets, and you'll find a different reality, one where more than 75,000 people are living without a home. In the year 2024, homelessness in Los Angeles County rose by 9%, and in the city itself, over 46,260 people are unhoused. That's a 10% spike in just 1 year. Why does this crisis continue to spiral? One major reason stares you right in the face: rent. In Los Angeles, the average monthly rent now exceeds $2,800. Even if you work full-time, keeping a roof over your head feels more like surviving a storm than building a life. Add to that a chronic shortage of affordable housing, a tangled and slow-moving bureaucracy, and neighborhoods pushing back against shelters, and you're left with a system that's struggling to meet the needs of its people. And the consequences? You might walk through Skid Row, a neighborhood that's become a humanitarian flashpoint. It's where paramedics hesitate to enter, where disease and violence spread, and where tents stretch for blocks like rows of lost hopes. What used to be a heartbeat of the city now feels like its open wound. Just blocks from the Hollywood Walk of Fame, a former film editor sleeps on cardboard. He once worked behind the camera. Now he hides behind broken glass. He said, "People come here chasing lights. Now I hide from sirens." This isn't just about housing. It's a deeper fracture, one carved by rising income inequality, high taxes, and public policies that move too slowly for those who can't afford to wait. And so, if you ever thought Los Angeles was just the city of angels, think again. It's become something else, a warning, maybe even a mirror. The US homelessness crisis isn't just numbers, it's lives left behind. In the world's richest nation, lacking basic shelter is a national failure. Real change begins when you start rethinking what truly matters, when you choose to see dignity as a right, not a privilege. If this message resonates with you, please like, share, and subscribe to RoamKind. Don't forget to turn on the bell so you won't miss our next deep dive. Let's roam with purpose, and let your voice speak up for those still unheard.